What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today, gonna go over how I source raw cards on eBay like this to grade. You can go back and check my last video on how I pre-grade all my Pokemon cards, as well as check my other videos going over my PSA reviews to see like kind of how I do, my gem rate, all that kind of stuff. I think I have like a 75 or 80% gem rate, so doing pretty well. Just want to make a video going over how I source all my raw cards on eBay. I do source some at card shows, but I would say like 80%, 90% of the cards I buy are on eBay. So I've had a lot of comments in the past, few weeks wanting an updated video on how I do this. So we're gonna go ahead and run through pretty much my entire process and what you guys can do, especially now that PSA has adjusted their tier levels and everything, pausing the value tiers. So without further ado, let's kind of get into this. So first up, I think it's very important to have saved searches. Basically, this just save you a lot of time on the back end, so you don't have to like filter out all the cards every single time you look them up. What I like to do is type in like Holo or Pokemon or EX or Mega Evolution or something that will include a lot of cards at once. So right now I have Holo typed in. That's like my favorite one. Another save search with Pokemon, another one with ME for Mega Evolutions, SV for Scarlet and Violet. So we can get to those searches a little bit later. I always do Pokemon TCG, graded no, English, mainly looking for English cards. Sometimes I'll buy like some Japanese stuff, but mainly English has the best margins. Near mint or better, and then year manufactured. This doesn't really matter, but I just do all the ones in the past 5 or 6 years, just because those modern cards tend to grade better and I know more about them. Also, you can do sets if you want to filter out that price range. Normally I go like $10 and up, but now that PSA has suspended all the value tiers, only worth it to grade higher end cards now, in my opinion. There are some cards that you can grade that are lower end that are still worth the margin, but then obviously if you're paying $80 to grade a $20 card and get to 9, you're gonna be losing a lot of money. So I'm sticking with higher value cards right now. It is a good idea, I think, to pick up a lot of the raw cards that are like lower value right now because people aren't submitting them. So if you can stockpile a big pile of them and then submit them when PSA opens up the submissions back for value tiers, I think it's a very good strategy. So I will still be looking for lower value stuff, but I'm mainly focusing on cards $50, $100 and up. So do that, buy it now, and then other than that, you can kind of like play around with the settings, but that's kind of my base settings or filters for my save search, and then I just click save right there. So then every time I want to look up cards to grade, I already have that search saved. So next up, you kind of just want to browse through. You can always hit refresh on here. You want to stay in the first few pages just because a lot of the good quality cards get bought really, really quick. So I normally stay in the first 3 or 4 pages. Especially when it's like nighttime, there's a lot of listings posted and also a lot of people buying cards. So I mainly just look for cards that I think have high gem rates or have really good margins in a 10, and then I'm just like going through and looking at each card, making sure the centering is good. So for example, this card seems to have pretty good centering left to right, maybe a little bit heavy on the right here, but I think it looks pretty good. Then we flip it over to the back, always look at the back corners. So this one, you can see also I would recommend turning your brightness all the way up. That's another thing on your computer or your laptop or your phone, just so you can really see everything. So that corner whitening right there, I'm not sure about that. Would probably pass on this card. But the rest of it looks pretty good. But yeah, that white corner right there is probably a no-go. I also always check the seller's other items, making sure they don't have any other or a lot of graded cards on there. They grade. If you see a lot of cards that are graded that have like similar certification numbers, you kind of gauge that they generally grade cards and the raw cards they have might not be gradable. So always look at that, and also obviously like the feedback and all that kind of stuff. You don't want to buy a card from a seller that's not shipping their cards like this one or anything like that. So always look at that kind of stuff. So going back to our save search, let's quickly look at some other cards. I did find one card I think has a potential to grade pretty well. So this Eevee right here out of Prismatic Evolutions, it looks pretty well centered. I think it might be a little bit thick right here on the right. So what I'll do generally is I'll take a little screenshot of the card. So I'll take a screenshot of the card right here, and then I'll go over to this website, Edge Grading. You can basically just select the image, upload it, and then adjust it so you can see the centering and gauge if it's like within tolerance for PSA. Go over here and say use this image, and then it's going to load the image into the site. It's totally free. Shout out to Edge Grading, I guess. So once it's all loaded, you just come over here and you can adjust the sliders so that they line up with the borders of the card. We're looking for 45 to 55 on the front and the back. Sometimes I zoom in a little bit just to get a more accurate representation of the borders. That looks pretty good. Doesn't have to be perfect, but within range, I would say. So just make sure that everything looks lined up correctly. And then we'll see, kind of what the card is like. So it says left to right, 47 to 53. Top to bottom, I knew was going to be pretty good just looking at it. It's definitely questionable. I think that if I had a little more tolerance right now with PSA, if I was saying this in a value bulk order, I might be more prone to take a chance on it. But because of the new turnaround times and the value tiers being suspended, you got to be really careful with what you're buying, what you're sending in. This one it's pretty borderline. So the rest of the card though looks pretty good. If we can go back to it real quick, right here. It does look pretty good, I think. Looking at the back of the card, we can go over here. The corners look pretty good. Obviously you're not going to be able to tell a lot about the surface on eBay, so that's something you got to evaluate when you get the card in hand. But corner whitening and centering is mainly what I look out for. Also, if there's anything else that stands out, obviously I will take that into consideration. But mainly what I'm looking for right now is centering and corner whitening. I don't think this person grades. Yeah, they don't even have any other cards up for sale. So next thing I do is I come over here to the See Insights. You can also look at the PSA pop reports on the PSA site. You can look at gemrate.com for the gem rates. Collectors app has gem rates as well. But I'll go over here and go to pop report. And then we see that there has been 3,400 graded and 2,400 have gotten PSA 10s. So that's not a very good gem rate. I don't know, it's around 20, 30%, something like that, I think. We're looking for more in that 50, 60% gem rate, but I will say that there's a lot of margin to be had with this card. See that PSA 10s are selling for 630, 700, 740. So there is a good margin built in there. It might be worth taking a chance at. A lot of them are selling for around 170. I will pay strong on cards that I think will grade well. I will pay over comps just because if I'm already, going to double my money, triple my money on the card, I have no problem, paying a little extra for it. So this is a card maybe we'll keep in our watch list. It does look pretty good though, besides that centering. If it wasn't the centering, I would probably just pull the trigger on it right now. But let's take a look at other cards and see if we can find anything else that looks a little better. Another thing I want to mention, once you kind of get an eye for what cards grade well, what cards don't grade well, you'll kind of just know what to look for with each card. So for example, a lot of these gold cards, from Ascended Heroes, they or Mega Evolutions in general, they have really bad centering. So this one up top is really thin compared to the bottom. So if you do look at the pop report for these cards, the gem rate's really, really low. I think it's in the 20s. So I would stay away from these unless you do check it out and it looks really good. But a lot of times it's not worth your time to be constantly checking cards like that. Whereas, cards like Meowth, for example, has really good gem rate. I think it's over 80% gem rate. I have several PSA right now, and look at this one. It looks pretty good. I would say this one is very well centered, and the corners on these are all pretty good. Most of the modern cards, especially the special illustration rares, tend to have good corners. Sometimes the illustration rares don't have good corners. They have some whitening, but these look pretty good. There is a little bit of whitening right there. I think that is kind of just dust on the card. I don't really think that is on the actual corner of the card itself. But another thing you want to take into account, what's your risk tolerance? You might want to stay away from those that have some corner whitening. Also, if it says PSA 10 contender or grade me or anything like that within the title, take that with a grain of salt. A lot of times, I would say 9 times out of 10, they won't get PSA 10s. A lot of them are really off-centered, or people are just throwing that up there so the card will sell faster. So I would stay away from that if you do see that, unless the card looks really good, but never just base it off of the title. All right, so I think we found a good card right here. This Mega Gengar EX. As you can see, it looks really well centered left to right, top to bottom. I think that it's well within the 45, 55 tolerance. Looking at the back of the card, there's no corner whitening or anything. The back centering does not really matter as much. This one is well within the 75-25 that PSA allows. So like I said, you can't tell about the surface that well in Pokemon cards on eBay, but I would generally say that the front surface is always pretty good on Pokemon cards. The back surface can be questionable at times, but you have to look out for that when you get the card in hand. So let's look down at the description. This one has nothing that will prevent me from buying the card in the description, and then does not look like the guy really grades cards. We'll go over here to sold items too, see what else he sold. Okay, so he sold a Mega Charizard, so maybe he's ripping a lot of packs, or whatever, making trades with his friends and just listing the cards on eBay. So this one's pretty good. It does look like this card is also mislisted, so we're not able to go to the price insights. They're not up because it says it's an Ancient Origins when it's really Ascended Heroes. We can go over here and type in the card. So Gengar Ascended Heroes, what is this, 269. See how much the card's going for, and then see how much the PSA 10s are going for as well. So looks like a PSA 10 just sold for like $450. We'll be able to see the insights on this card though, because it's listed correctly. So we'll go over here to compare PSA ungraded. Looks like the ungraded cards are going for about like $80, $75 to $90. So there's one at $115. That $90 is not the worst price in the world. Like I said, sometimes you got to pay up for cards that are gradable. PSA 10s, on the other hand, are going for around $400 to like $450. So great margin there. Even when you pay $80 to grade the card, after insurance and everything like that, might be more like $90. So we'll be in it for like $180. 190, and then PSA 10s though selling for $400. Even that drops like $350. We're still gonna have some margin in there as well. As you can see, the pop count, pretty good gem rate as well. We're looking, above 50%, so that's always good to see. So yeah, this looks like a good card to pull a trigger on. I think it fits all the criteria. Well centered, no corner whitening, nothing else stands out about the card. The seller does not grade cards, and it has a good PSA multiplier, even with the $80 submission tier. Maybe I'll hold it for the $25 submission tier if that comes back in the next few months. But I think this one is a strong candidate for grading. All right, guys, so as you can see, I purchased the card. It cost me about $95 after shipping, but I think it's a pretty good deal. Again, I'll probably be in it for like $180, $190 if I do submit with the $80 submission tier. And then when the card gets back to me, hopefully if it grades well, it'll also be worth about $400. After fees and everything, probably should make about $100 in the card. I might hold on to it until the value bulk gets back, but we'll see. So, all right, now we found one card from that saved search. Let's take a look at some other ones and see if we can find anything else. All right, so another one of my favorite saved searches is Illustration Rare. I think that this one, includes a lot of cards in it. Obviously, special illustration rares are generally cards you want to grade. So I think this is good. Again, we have all the same, filters, no for graded, near mint or better. Price, I have $8 to $1,500. Again, you can adjust that as you want. I do want to mention though, you don't want to necessarily buy a lot of cards that are in mags if they're, presented like this. All the high-end cards people will throw in these, one touches, mags, whatever you want to call them, will not really fit the card. Mainly these one touches are made for sports cards. They do make Pokemon ones as well. This one looks like there's like a sleeve inside of it, which I don't really know if it even fits correctly. But a lot of them, if they ship them in the mag, card will bounce around and there'll be some like whitening on the card in the corners or on the edges. I've had that happen to me several times. So I would stay away from that. Or if you do find a card, maybe ask the seller not to send it in one of these one touches. But yeah, let's take a look at some of the other cards that we have. Obviously, if you're more on a budget and you want to wait till value bulk comes back, I totally understand that. This Clefairy is a really good card to grade. I've had I think 7 or 8 of them right now at PSA. So it's about, $30 or so. But if you look at the insights right here, at PSA 10 is, going for anywhere from $380 to, $400. This one sold for $500. So really wide range of sales right here, but we're looking at I would say $400 to $500 card. Also, it's a very good pop count too, over 50% gem rate. So that's always good. So yeah, looking at the card right now, this one does look a little off-centered left to right. So will not be buying this one, but definitely a card to look out for. Same thing with this Meowth, another card that has really good gem rate and has really good margins as well. We're looking at about $20 for the card raw. PSA 10s are doing about $200, so that's pretty good. These are selling for even more actually. So these are going for like $270, which is pretty crazy. Going to the pop report, we see that 8,700 were graded as PSA 10s out of 18,000. So, not an insane gem rate, but good enough that if you find clean copies, you can definitely grade the card. I think mainly with these illustration rares, these modern ones, you really want to look for the centering. So this one obviously would not be good to grade. It's really off-centered top to bottom and left to right as well. But looking for clean copies of those two cards are always something to look out for. A lot of the cards I'm trying to pick up right now are more like this Mega Greninja EX from Chaos Rising, higher dollar stuff, $400. I'm mainly targeting these cards again just because it makes more sense to grade them with that higher value tier. This one does look very off-centered, so don't be grading that one. But again, cards like that are what we're looking for, generally speaking. So I would just take a look around eBay, see if you can find any cards that you might like, or that might do well in PSA 10s. Any like Greninja Evolution from Chaos Rising will do pretty well as well. I'm sure this is a pop zero at this point because the set just came out. This one looks a little bit off-centered, but I have picked up a few of those. So those are always ones to look out for. Another search I would save is partner collection. I have this like Charizard right here, or Charmander actually, from the partner collection. These do grade really, really well, and they have really insane margins. So for example, if we look at the Squirtle right here and go to the price insights, we see that the card goes for about $500 to $550, almost $600 in a PSA 10. And the raw cards are going for about $30 or so. So pretty insane margin on that, even with the $80 submission tier. If you do want to grade it with that submission tier, obviously, in a few months, the prices might fall a little bit. So, but again, like these are all good cards to grade. I think they all have pretty high gem rates. So like this gem rate on the Charmander is 755 out of 893. That's probably like an 80+% gem rate. 90 plus, which is really, really good. Obviously, again, you still want to look out for the cards. There's a lot of cards that aren't getting graded because they don't have good centering or have some whitening. In general, a lot of clean copies of these cards are available. This one's listed for $1,000. I think that's pretty high, but let's see if we can find one that is listed for a little bit cheaper to see exactly what it's going for. As you can see, this Charmander is going for about $40 to $50 raw. And in a PSA 10, again, we're pushing like, $500, $550. This one sold for $730, which is pretty crazy. So, again, insane margin on these cards. You're gonna be in the card for about, $120, $130 if you grade it with the regular service tier. If you choose to wait, you'll be in it for a lot cheaper, but the prices might fall, like I mentioned. Still just crazy margin on this card. So another card I would definitely look out for. All these first partner collection cards in general, to be honest. A couple other cards I bought in the past few days include this Gengar. It's a Chinese card actually. I think I was searching Pokemon or something like that in general, so it's Pokemon on the title. Obviously, if I was searching English only, I wouldn't see this card. But really high gem rate on this one. Looks pretty well centered to me. Obviously, the pictures aren't the greatest, but you can kind of piece them together. Corners, there's no obvious whitening. A lot of the Chinese and Japanese cards, especially the Japanese cards, have really high gem rates. Most of the time, the margins aren't as good, though. This card, for whatever reason, I guess it's a Gengar. There's a Clefairy right there as well in the card. Does really well in a PSA 10. So if you look up, Gengar CBB3C PSA 10, right here, you'll see that the card's going for over $800 in a 10. And like I said, I got it for $150. So that's a pretty good margin right there on a card that has a really high gem rate. See, the gem rate right there is, above 80%, looks like. I'm not doing the math right now, but 70-80% at least. 10,000 out of 14,000 graded PSA 10. So another card to keep your eye out for. Another card I picked up was this Latias from Surging Sparks. I actually have two at PSA right now. This one looks really well centered off the rip. Can't really find anything wrong with the card. And then on the back of the card, there is no corner whitening. I think this whitening right here is just a little like piece of lint or something like that. I'm taking kind of a chance on it just because I guess it could be corner whitening, but I don't think so. And then the rest of the corners look good as well. So I think this one has a good chance to gem. Again, we'll see what it's like in hand. The seller doesn't really grade cards like I saw, so I think that checks out. And then this card's going for pretty penny in a PSA 10. Surging Sparks PSA 10. I think it was like $700 last time I checked. So yeah, $700 in a PSA 10. So pretty good margins there. And just some examples of more cards that I'm buying to grade. Again, like sometimes you'll look for hours and not find anything. Other times you'll look for 20 minutes and find 3 cards. So kind of a mixed bag there. You gotta be quick, but it's very rewarding when you do get these cards back and you have all these cool Pokemon cards in high grades that you bought raw, and you can either flip or keep for your own collection. So in this video, I showed you guys how I save my saved searches, how I look at the condition of the card, looking at the centering, corner whitening, edges, all that kind of stuff. Told you guys what cards I generally target to grade, some good ones to look out for yourself. Especially with the turnaround times and the value tiers getting suspended. Obviously, once these value tiers get reinstated, I might make an updated video, or you guys can just target lower end stuff. Like I said, still, it's probably a good time to stockpile some lower end cards to send in once these tiers get updated, because a lot of people aren't grading cards right now. Like I mentioned before, don't be afraid to pay over comps for these cards. Obviously, don't have to go too far over comps, but if a card's really clean and you're afraid someone else might buy it before you get an offer send in, then go ahead, pull a trigger on it if you're willing to risk it like that. Also, be ready to take losses. If you're grading a bunch of cards, you're gonna get some 9s, you're gonna get some cards that you get in that are rejects, so you can't grade. So be willing to take losses. I will say that in my experience, if you do grade good and you have a good gem rate, the wins far outweigh the losses. So don't be afraid of that. I always think of my grading submissions in terms of the order, the profit per order, not the profit per card, because if you do that, you can drive yourself crazy looking like, thinking that you lost, $30 on one card, $50 on one card. If you look at the overall picture of how much you made in the entire order, a lot of times, that's substantial. So we did find one card to grade, that Gengar. I'm sure, I'll be looking tonight and stuff and find some more. I always tend to buy 3 or 4 cards a day. Obviously, do what you can afford. Don't start off, maxing out your credit card because you're buying a bunch of cards to grade. Also, make sure you're not getting scammed or anything like that. There are a lot of scams on eBay. Normally, you can get your money back, but I will always look at, like I said, look at the seller, all their ratings and all that kind of stuff. So if you do like this video, make sure you subscribe. I do generally grading videos. Mainly, I do like submission returns, PSA reveals, all that kind of stuff. And then I'll have some, tips and tricks here and there like this video. Also, if you want to keep track of all your inventory, I do have a Google Sheets template that I sell on my Patreon. Go check that out. I also have a grading ebook as well that has kind of all the information that I talked about in this video, maybe a little bit more in detail too. You can go purchase my Patreon. So yeah, thank you guys for watching this video. If it helped you, like I said, drop a like, subscribe, and I'll catch you guys next video. Peace.